Good evening, ladies, gentlemen. My name is Damien McNulty. I'm the chair of the National Education Committee of NASUWT. Thank you for joining us this evening. Also on the call from NASUWT, you'll see Sonia Hall, who's a lead member of staff in our education team based at our headquarters, and Darren Northcott, who's the national official who leads for NASUWT on matters to do with education. We're joined tonight for a presentation by Andrew Tomlinson, who's Head of Education Platforms at BBC Education, and his portfolio includes BBC Bitesize, BBC Teach, and BBC Food. We also have Miss V, who started her career in London working with students who'd been excluded from schools before she moved to Manchester to work in a city centre primary school. She then moved to work in a PRU, also in Manchester, where she is currently a Key Stage 2 and 3 teacher, and she has been a teacher presenter in BBC Bitesize Daily for the last year. So over to Andrew and Miss V.
Hello, thank you very much for your time this evening, and thank you for inviting us along, Damien and all your colleagues. It's a real honour to be here. I just wanted to start off by saying, as the dad of 2 primary school kids, thanks very much for everything that's happened, ever since they started their education, but obviously particularly over the last couple of years, which has been really taxing. So, I as a parent hugely appreciate that. What we're doing today is going to talk through what we offer on Bitesize and BBC Teach. So as Damien said, my job is to run both of those products. It's the content on those products that I run. It's not really the technical side. That I've got a colleague who does that. So we work together to try and create the best products we can in those circumstances. What I'm going to do is just take you through Bitesize and BBC Teach, what's on offer on each, and then hopefully at the end there'll be plenty of time for questions. But I also have with me Chloe V, who as Damien said, is a teacher but is also a presenter on Bitesize, and she's going to contribute as well as we go along through this presentation. So I'm going to just share the screen first of all, if you bear with me a sec. I'm hoping that you can all see that.
Certainly can, Andrew.
Great, that's good. So the question is, how can you use BBC Education resources in the classroom? That's me, that's my name, as I mentioned. I'm now going to find that I can't, there we go. So an overview of BBC Education as a whole. We became BBC Education about 2 years ago. Before that, we were known as BBC Learning. Part of becoming BBC Education was all about our merger with BBC Children's. So BBC Education is part of BBC Children's and Education. And as a result of that, there are some things that used to be run by Children's that are now run by us. And vice versa. So our biggest product really is, and our biggest service is Bitesize. I'm obviously going to talk about that in detail, but also BBC Teach is a really important part of our portfolio and something really quite new. It's only 4 years old. And the newest thing in our portfolio is NewsRound. So NewsRound has been run by BBC Children's with input from BBC News for, well, I guess 40, 50 years. It's nearly its 50th birthday. So, but now it's run by us in BBC Education, and it's great that we've got NewsRound as part of our portfolio. And then we have campaigns, which I'm also going to talk about a little bit later on, which, for example, our newest one is Regenerators, which is our sustainability campaign. So our vision, everyone has to have a vision these days, don't they? But I think it's a pretty good one. Our vision as BBC Education is to transform lives through education. So on Bitesize, we provide curriculum-linked materials for UK schools, children aged 5 to 16. That's our brief. As things stand at the moment, we're used by 77% of secondary school children and 65% of primary school children at least once during the quarter that this survey was done. Bitesize isn't just curriculum-related short-form content. It's also about campaigns like Regenerators, which is our new environmental initiative, and campaigns like Tiny Happy People, which will be moving across to Bitesize fairly soon. BBC Teach, as the name suggests, is home to all our teacher-facing content, As things stand, we're used by 43% of primary school teachers and 33% of secondaries in the last quarter. We host all sorts of things on Teach, and I'll come to that soon, but that includes super movers, young reporter, live lessons, all kinds of things. And as I mentioned before, we also have our campaigns like Regenerators on there, which launched at the end of October. The idea behind the campaigns is to create behaviour change so that people start to act differently around big issues, societal issues, such in this case as sustainability. So Bitesize Overview, it's our flagship educational website. It offers educationally approved, and by that I mean teachers are involved in the creation of our content from beginning to end, curriculum relevant, hopefully, self-study and home learning to 5 to 16-year-olds. And our mission, as I say, is to help every child and young person in the UK achieve their learning potential. You probably know this, some of you do. We began as a GCSE resource, a revision resource, but now we're about much more than just revision, both in terms of the children that we serve and the age groups that we serve, but also the kind of content that we have, which is useful for homework, is useful in the classroom, is also useful as a revision. So we've expanded in that sense. We're primarily an online provider, though during the pandemic, we used traditional broadcast channels too, iPlayer and BBC, namely, and that enabled us to reach kids and families who had limited access to devices or the internet. So on Bitesize, we have sections for new features. We have core curriculum content. We now have extra resources for parents and teachers. We also have topical news stories around education, and we have support and wellbeing content, which gets particularly well used during the exam period, surprisingly. And then careers, we're going to build on our careers offer, which I'll talk about a bit later. We also have games, and we have links to thousands of other resources across the BBC. So the content on Bitesize is made up of learner guides, thousands of them, about 18,000 of them actually, which incorporate video, audio, interactives, games, text, all of those things into a learner guide. So how can you access Bitesize? Well, surprise, surprise, bbc.co.uk/bitesize. So we're constantly updating and adding new content, and we have now about 35 subjects across primary and secondary. And we've got a lot of famous faces who've lent their talents to Bitesize, particularly during lockdown, including Brian Cox, Jessie Nelson, Jessie Lingard, David Attenborough, and many others, including bizarrely Bez from the Happy Mondays. Well, we are in Manchester. The BBC Teach Overview. BBC Teach supports teachers by largely and mainly by commissioning short form class clips, so very short films, usually 2 or 3 minutes for the classroom, and also really importantly working with other BBC programmes and other BBC teams to create curriculum related content for the classroom. So there's a whole wealth of learning content out there around the BBC, factual content, but it doesn't necessarily work for the curriculum until we get our hands on it. So what we do is we try and turn that content into stuff that works for the primary and secondary classroom. I'll give you an example of that in a minute. And BBC Teach is now home to all our teacher-facing content, and by that I mean content that needs the involvement of a teacher in order to deliver it to the class and is not direct to learner. So BBC Teach includes the website, YouTube channel, 3,000 plus class clips. So far we've done over 50 live lessons, which obviously once they've been live lessons then become legacy live lessons, not live anymore. And we have year-round projects such as Super Movers and Young Reporter that have been there for a while, and everything's available on bbc.co.uk/teach. So I'm just going to play here as an example of working with a big BBC department, which in this case was BBC Drama. It was the series Small Acts, which was created by a really kind of stellar team of an Oscar-winning director and some very famous actors. But what they wanted was some kind of legacy here. I'm not going to explain it all I'm not going to tell you what's in the actual trail. So here, this explains what Small Acts is all about and how BBC Teach works with them.
Small Acts is a series of 5 films from Academy Award winner Steve McQueen that tell the untold stories of Britain's West Indian community.
I'm here to help to bring change to this organisation from the inside out.
Shockingly, Black history isn't mandatory on the national curriculum. When it is taught, it's often confined to Black History Month. With the Black Lives Matter movement gaining global momentum and one of the stars of Small Axe, John Boyega, at its centre, the series needed a legacy beyond its broadcast. So we created the history lessons you never had. In collaboration with BBC Teach and Steve McQueen, we made 5 educational films using the actors and the real people that inspired them.
I'm Rashenda Sandel. I play one of the
The writing that followed became known as the Brixton Uprising.
I'm Leroy Logan.
I play Kingsley Smith.
I play Franklin in Lovers Rock, one of the films in Steve McQueen's series.
They were also accompanied by teacher notes to make it as easy as possible for these important stories to finally be taught in classrooms across the UK. The history lessons you never had got people talking and created a lasting legacy for Small Axe. But most importantly, they got people learning.
Now, I can promise you both, you have never been to a school anything like mine.
So I think that's a pretty good example of how we can work with some of the big BBC departments and the independent production companies who make things for us to turn something that was, well, essentially a drama into a learning resource. And that's one of the things that we try to specialise in on BBC Teach. So I'm going to go through Bitesize. I'll take you through it fairly quickly, then we can sort of have some questions after it. But I'll start with Bitesize Secondary. So on Secondary, we have a load of curriculum content for Key Stage 3 students, which I'll talk about in more detail in a minute. Self-study modules for GCSE, thousands of them. We're developing Bitesize careers, and we're hoping to work with some big partners, which we haven't kind of signed a deal with yet, so I won't say who they are, but some big partners on improving our careers offer. And also Bitesize support. So, for example, the campaign, The Mindset, was a Bitesize support campaign, helping young people around exams and getting in the right mindset to do exams and the challenges that they face there. So Bitesize Key Stage 3 has been what we've been really specialising on, trying to, with all the COVID things going on, trying to specialise on for the last year, because we had issues with Key Stage 3. The bounce rate back out of the content was very high. The journeys through the content didn't make a great deal of sense. The formats that we were using were very outdated. So we've tried to really make a sea change in Bitesize Key Stage 3 with brand new Key Stage 3 guides now available in English, biology, chemistry, physics, well, you can see there, history and geography, a new guide for Key Stage 3 maths coming soon. And what we've done is kind of atomize the content and break it down into much smaller, more manageable pieces in these new guides. But they all still include all those key things: video, quizzes, infographics. In fact, more of them. They're less text heavy than they used to be. They have more of those kind of features. And we're starting to, well, I think about 70% of the ones that we've had delivered, we have now published, and we're gradually going to improve Key Stage 3 by publishing more of them. And the courses support progress, which is, might sound like an obvious thing to do, but frankly, the progression through Key Stage 3 until recently has been quite poor. So we're trying to build more progress into these from year 7 through to year 9. And as I mentioned before, all of this is designed by teachers to offer progression through the subjects and to make links between the topics all the way through the process teachers are involved. Well, I think perfect's probably pushing it a bit, but all the newly launched content is good for homework and classroom tests, and it's not just for the end of year revision. And we've responded to teacher feedback. We've broadened, for example, our history coverage to represent a diverse range of topics from world history. And also we've made our interactive games in Key Stage 3 available, which is something quite new to us, doing games for Key Stage 3 and not just primary. So what you see here, this is obviously a bit more interesting if you actually need to learn this subject, but it's just a kind of, it's a flavour of what a Key Stage 3 new guide looks like. As you can see, the text is fairly minimal, the interactives and the videos are very prominent. There's a lot of quiz type content or test type content on there. And down the left-hand side now, you can take yourself through the process. And then when you've finished one of these guides, then it's very clear where you go next for the next part of the course. As we call them courses, it was difficult to come up with a term for them because we already have learner guides. It might not be quite right. We might change that, but at the moment they're called mini courses or short courses. So Bitesize GCSE, which is kind of, I guess, the thing that we're sort of famous for. It's the education resource that's most recommended by secondary teachers. 8 out of 10 GCSE students who use Bitesize also say it helped improve their grades. So what we do is a survey every quarter, and the summer school tracker, as it was called, which is the latest one, gave us those figures. So we're not just, I'm just trying to make the point that we're not making them up. And our GCSE content includes at the moment 31 subjects, guides with high quality original video, infographics and quizzes. All the content is exam board specific, which obviously is very important to that level. So students can choose their exam board and they're confident that they're learning the right material in the right order. The website works across PCs, tablets and phones, so we've been working really closely with our design and engineering colleagues to make sure that it functions on all of those platforms, which it frankly didn't do until quite recently. All of our content is really good for revision and is designed for students to use independently, but that doesn't prevent teachers perhaps exploring some of those subjects in hybrid learning and using classroom videos or setting homework tasks with it and mixing and matching it. I mean, frankly, you can use it however you want, obviously. And our video content, we think, is a good way of succinctly explaining some pretty tricky concepts, for example, in science. And it sometimes can give perspectives that the classroom can't provide in, for example, something like geography, where we can use content from the natural history unit to show places that obviously you can't necessarily get to. Bitesize Secondary Games is a new addition to the portfolio. This is really a bit of an experiment. Do games work for Key Stage 3? So we have History Detectives, which is an interactive Key Stage 3 game, and it allows the students to move back in time, explore things like President Kennedy's Oval Office, a factory in the Industrial Revolution, as you can see here, and you can analyse and evaluate the evidence they find. And cover some of the big questions in history. That's the thinking behind it. We're monitoring that really closely because it's one of our first Key Stage 3 ones to see how well it's working. But obviously interactivity is really crucial these days in any education product. So we're hoping that it goes down well. And the same goes for Atomic Labs, which is an interactive Key Stage 3 game, which allows learners to try out experiments across the sciences. It's designed by teachers, as I keep labouring that point, but it was all the way through that process of making that game. We had teachers helping us make sure that it delivered the curriculum. The idea is that players work with an AI robot to record their findings. Bitesize Primary is something that, to be honest, was a bit of a Cinderella service until recently, but lockdown has sort of shown us how important Bitesize Primary is. The figures went up 4-fold on primary during lockdown, but they haven't crashed back down again to how they were before. We've got a really healthy Bitesize Primary audience at the moment, so we need to service that audience better. So what we're trying to do is to create more effective learner guides for primary, and we started making those now. So as you can imagine, Key Stage 1 learner guides are very simple, not much text. We hope they're very impactful. As you can see, when you get to Key Stage 2, they have a little bit more text, but they're hopefully still as kind of clean and crisp as they were at Key Stage 1 and easy to follow and not too much content on there. I'm just going to play you one of the videos from Bitesize Primary just to show you the kind of thing we do, the kind of length they are, and hopefully this gives you an idea of the sort of thing we do right across primary.
Let's try vaguely edible this time, and I'd prefer it if you didn't make a mess, okay? In the word prefer, the second syllable is stressed. You can check where the stress is by saying the word out loud. Prefer. And when the fare is stressed, you add an extra R as well as the suffix. Your preferred topping is chocolate buttons, but you would find icing preferable. Now the fare isn't stressed, preferable. So this time we can just add the suffix and no extra R. My preference is that you stop baking and go outside.
There we go, nice and short and crisp, and you can play it again if there's something you didn't catch. It's very different from the kind of video we have on BBC Teach because of its very short length and the fact that it's supported by lots of other content around it. So, you know, what we're trying to do, particularly with Bitesize Primary, is to make learning fun. So it's all very much curriculum related. It's exactly what you should be, you know, what those kids should be learning at that age. But hopefully we can add a fun factor to it by using, for example, animation. And Bitesize, we're really keen, isn't about being passive. We want students to engage with our content. And that's why we've got lots of mini interactives to encourage students to practice new concepts. So, for example, you see here a drag and drop one, you see a quiz, you know, all of those things that allow the child to actually engage with the learning that's on the page. As I say, simple diagnostics, quizzes, and you can test your knowledge and test your progress. Bitesize Primary games have one of the really big successes of lockdown. So we started making quite a lot of it. Here's a sample of them. So in literacy and numeracy mainly, but also in science as well. We have this portfolio of titles here, from Galaxy Pugs and Karate Cats to Defenders of Mathematica, one of whom is behind me. So the idea is that it's to create a more immersive experience and to consolidate knowledge, and they all have learning absolutely at their core. They're not entertainment games. You know, there's sometimes a little bit of pressure from our colleagues in children's who create entertainment games to push more entertainment into them. Actually, you know, we don't want them to be boring, but at the end of the day, they're about learning. They're not about entertainment. Having said that, you know, there are certain titles in children's, and you know, now that we are children's and education, we really like to work with them. There are certain titles that just lend themselves to a great game. So this is the latest game that we launched and is doing really well. It's a CBBC and Bitesize co-production, and it's based on horrible histories. And here's a quick promo about what it's about.
Calling all Vikings, fed up with fighting the same old enemies, running out of food or farmers. Try raid and trade. Choose a Norse god or goddess and help your Vikings explore the world. Whether terrifying monks, hunting walruses, trading silk, or just smashing it up with the Saxons, there's 300 years of horrible history to enjoy. Play the game now on BBC Bitesize.
So we hope that, you know, maybe that's the kind of thing that works for golden time at the end of the day, if the kids have earned it, because obviously you don't want them playing Fortnite, so maybe that will work instead. Now, Bitesize has been working with a lot of teachers, as I mentioned, but not just in the sense of them giving us advice, but also during lockdown in particular, we did a lot of TV content. And Chloe V, who I'm about to introduce you to now, she was one of our star performers during the lockdown and did a great job on CBBC and the iPlayer with Bitesize daily. And there were hundreds of these programs for all sorts of different levels of kids. As Damien said, she started her teaching career in London, working with students who've been excluded before moving to City Centre School in Manchester, and has been working in a pupil referral unit where she's a Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 3 teaching and learning assessment lead. And as I say, she's been a teacher presenter on Bitesize for the last year. And I'm just interested, Chloe, in what your thoughts are about Bitesize and how you use it in your classroom.
Hi, Andrew. Can I just firstly say that I absolutely think they're invaluable for teachers. I really do. The amount of time they save me is just incredible. Now, I say that why I like the BBC Bitesize and BBC Teach is I know I'm going to get quality. I know that I can go for any single clip and I know that it will be factual, it will be engaging, and it will be pitched just perfect for my students. So I'd say that if you're in Key Stage 3, don't be afraid to use the Key Stage 2 resources. Now with me, I work along Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 3, but sometimes I find that my Key Stage 3 are academically a bit below where they should be. So I always go back to the BBC Bitesize website and use stuff like that. I find BBC Bitesize particularly very good for EAL pupils, so pupils that have got English as an additional language, because the clips are very bright, they're engaging, and they're just really fun. I'm going to show you now a clip with Emmeline Pankhurst. At the start of the year, we always do history, and the topic we like to do it is something that's related to the pupils. So we're in Manchester, and Emmeline Pankhurst was born in Moss Side. So we always look at Emmeline Pankhurst, and this clip just really gets across her message.
I'm Emmeline Pankhurst, and for the first time ever, I, as a woman, have the backing of Parliament to vote for who runs the country. This would not have happened without the suffragettes. Until now, the only people who got to vote were men. Well, some men. Men with money. There were groups who argued that that wasn't fair, but government didn't listen. So my daughters and I started the WSPU, the Women's Social and Political Union. I made speeches, urging women to take action.
Thanks. So what's great about the clips, and in particular this one, is that they're short, they're fun, they're clear, and they're precise. And they're great for all sorts of learners, special educational needs learners, or also your older learners. And what's great is you've not only got the clip or the video, you've then got the key facts, you've then got the information, you've then got the extra resources that you can use. And moving on to BBC Teach, again, there's not a day that goes by that I don't use BBC Teach. At the moment, I'm really loving the youngers clips. Now they're on BBC Teach, and they're aimed at secondary school pupils, and there's not a subject that isn't covered. So whatever you're doing in the classroom, whatever's coming up as an issue, whether that's bullying, racism, binge drinking, or coping as a carer, there's a clip on there at the moment. So last week, or a couple of weeks ago, it was Anti-Bullying Week, and this is a short clip that we used in the classroom.
I told you, innit? They let us do practicals from early.
Shut up, man. You're gonna wet yourself.
Okay, guys, now remember that you have to record everything that you do here today, right? Because you're gonna need it for your homework. Yep, I know.
Don't this waste man know that we've got lives? It is baby stuff. I swear we don't do things like cutting up hamsters till year 9.
They make us dissect hamsters.
Yeah. Are you gonna donate yours for the cause?
She's joking.
Okay, once all the solution's been filtered, pass the flask on to someone else in your group. They're going to place it in the evaporating dish. Now, very, very careful with that dish, okay, guys? Tongs and towels, never fingers.
Shanice, I dare you to touch that.
Shut up, man. You touch it.
Oh, you're shook, aren't you, yeah?
Is this your shook face?
Yeah. Careful, you'll get burned. Careful, you'll get burned. Don't listen to Save the Animals over there, just do it. Go on.
Shanice, is that what we call responsible behaviour? No, it's not. Why did we spend last lesson talking about health and safety for you to go and do that? Right, over here, please. You can sit the rest of the experiment out.
So why this clip was so useful for us was it got the pupils talking. They were able to see themselves and some of the pupils on screen. They could see other people, and it just gets them talking about what's right and wrong. And for teachers, we can stand at the front of the classroom and be as engaging as we like, but they need something visual. Pupils, especially after spending so much time at home, are visual learners. And these clips just really help encapsulate all the lessons. And I say for teachers as well, like Andrew showed the grammar lesson, I always say to my teachers, go and watch them to refresh what you're teaching. So if you've forgotten how to do suffixes and prefixes, I always say, go back, just go on the BBC Bitesize website, have a quick look, and it breaks it down simple for not just the pupils, but for us as well, because I know sometimes we do forget what we've been teaching if it's been a while. And I'd say as well for the teachers as well, always follow them on social media. That's where I get most of my lesson ideas from. For example, whatever's coming up on Instagram, on BBC Bitesize and the Teach website, they'll remind you of what lessons are coming up. So for example, anti-bullying week, I had forgotten that was coming up, but because it was on social media, I was able to remember, go on the links and get my lesson started. And I'd also say as well, always include BBC Bitesize in your medium-term planning. Now, I know I keep going on about it, but it is just saves you so much time. If you go through your planning, have a bit of a search on the website, see what clips are relevant for each lesson. So then as the term goes along, you've got everything already there. So when that week comes, you don't have to faff about looking for other videos to watch. It's already there for you. But that's it really. I cannot just stress how fantastic it is. It really is a lifesaver, and even the lessons as well. I would say you can watch them as part of your medium-term planning, but also as part of the end of the day. We watch live lessons after it's been shown as just something to do for the children to learn without realising it's a lesson. They're really, really engaging.
Chloe, thanks very much. And just for the record, we didn't write your script, did we?
No, you didn't. I know. I keep saying that. I've been great working with you for 2 years, but before that, my whole teaching career, I've always used your platforms.
We really appreciate it. Thanks very much. I'm just going to share the screen again, just so bear with me. I know it's a bit clunky. Right. And the one thing that I was going to do before, as part of the introduction of Chloe, was just to show you some of the work that she's done. So here's a quick clip from one of the lockdown lessons that we put out during the school closures.
That's a great idea, but I think we can do one better.
Wow! Mrs. V, how did you do that?
The power of 3D. We have an Earth. We also have a sun.
Oh, wow, that is so bright.
Let's put a mini Katie and a mini Mrs. V on our Earth.
Oh, look at us in the UK.
The sun is currently shining on the UK. Do you think it's day or night where we are?
Well, it must be daytime.
Watch what happens as Earth spins on its axis, west to east. As the globe turns, the UK and mini us begin to go towards the darkness beyond the light.
Oh, so it's starting to get darker, so that must mean it's evening time now, near sunset.
Exactly.
A woman of many talents, Chloe B. Thanks very much.
That's a great...
Oh. As I mentioned before, we also have campaigns on Bitesize, and the most recent one is Regenerators. It's the new environmental initiative, and it was launched last month. There are two major strands, the first being to understand, so there are new green classroom resources for primary, and now with for primary now, and Key Stage 3 to follow early next year. And there are two live lessons, which I'll talk about live lessons a bit later, for primary in January. And to act on this. So it's one thing to understand it, but also to act on it. So we have information, inspiration, calls to action for young families, and it's in partnership with the Natural History Unit and Radio 1. So here's a summary from Kel Spellman, who's quite a high-profile ecological campaigner as well as an actor, who's one of the ambassadors of the campaign.
The planet's future is in our hands. We have the power to make the difference.
But climate change can be overwhelming. It can be hard to know where to start or how to keep going.
The Regenerators from BBC Bitesize is here to support you on your journey.
It's full of exciting content for teachers to use in the classroom.
And then the waves and weather broke the plastic into little pieces.
And for young people to access at home.
One of the things we do to try and make a difference is use these old portable gaming consoles.
From things you can do differently in your daily life.
We're walking to the shop. There's
this bird feeder that I put on so they can get some food.
To how you can use your voice to inspire others.
They asked the audience if we had any questions, and the entire time it felt like my heart was beating out of my chest.
A real banana will turn brown, rot, and break down into the soil.
It's exciting to see how much planting trees can make a difference to both our landscape and our own well-being.
We need to clean up this area frequently. It's just been 5 minutes and we got this much.
Because by starting small and coming together, we can make a big difference.
I think Regenerators is a really great example of how we can work with other parts of the BBC, the Natural History Unit in particular in this case, to have a big impactful campaign, and also a really good example of how we're starting to move those campaigns onto Bitesize and to increase the influence of Bitesize by not just having purely curriculum related content on there, but also content like this.
The planet's...
So BBC Teach. BBC Teach supports teachers, as I said before, by creating curriculum related content, and the main categories of that content is class clips, live lessons and audio clips. So our new content for 2022 will include some core content for Key Stage 3 English, Key Stage 2 and 3 Science, humanities content including British Asian history and Black history, geography, and importantly is one of our strengths on BBC Teach, new assemblies and teacher support content, cross-curricular topic-based films for Key Stage 1, some music history content, mental health and anti-racism films for Key Stage 3 and 4, and a new series of 16 live lessons. Live lessons are 30-minute interactive programs. Most of them are initially live, hence their name, but we keep them on the site afterwards with BBC presenters from right across the BBC. So it's great that we can tap into presenters from children's, from the NHU, from current affairs, all of these areas. And the idea is that we celebrate curriculum, we build them around curriculum themes and celebrations that go on during the school year. And they're streamed live on BBC Teach and CBBC simultaneously. So here's just a sample of what live lessons are all about.
So I am, as you can see, underwater right now with Caribbean reef sharks.
Well, the process is called fledging. So first of all, the adults feed the young until their wings have grown big enough for them to flap them.
Good work, team.
Welcome to Chester Zoo.
Safer Internet Day is today.
Welcome to our very special BBC Teach Roald Dahl Day lesson. Happy World Book Day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Have a great one. If you cast your eyes down to the bottom, you can see this line that's running across this way. This is called the x-axis.
When it comes to writing an article, factual accuracy is everything. So I'll always check different sources to make sure the facts that I'm telling are correct.
This is what happens if you don't use a legal site or a secure platform and ask an adult first before you buy something. Very sad.
Yeah, so live lessons, we're really pleased with the last series of live lessons. You know, in particular, the live lessons that we've done in the last 2 or 3 weeks have really cut through. And the anti-bullying live lesson was a great case in point where we had thousands of streams, and of course on the end of each of those streams is usually a class of whatever, 28 kids or sometimes a whole year group. So, you know, they've been performing really well, and they're a chance to kind of maybe particularly in primary, obviously, to sort of take that half hour out of the day and go and do something that feels a bit different with a different sort of texture to it, but is also very much educational, is very much delivering to the curriculum. So new primary live lessons, we have a winter live lesson, a Christmas live lesson. In 2022, we have 2 Regenerators live lessons with Green Planet. We have one on the Victorians. We have a World Book Day one, the News Round 50th anniversary, and more that we haven't basically decided yet. So a summary of everything that we do and how to find us. I think I've talked pretty much about everything that Bitesize and Teach does. We're available on all of these addresses. They're all, well, they're the same basically, whether you're Twitter, Facebook or Instagram, it's at BBC Bitesize. Teach, Twitter, BBC_Teach, Facebook, BBC Teach, Instagram, BBC_Teach. That's all the things we do. We're Chloe and I are here to answer any questions that you've got, but thank you for your time, and I really do appreciate you listening to me for the last hour, and it's been an honour being here, so thank you.
Thanks, thanks a million, Andrew and Chloe. We have a few questions starting to come through in the question and answers tab, and thank you to those colleagues for putting them there, and also a couple of questions in the chat. So I'll take them one at a time if that's okay, Andrew. And,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
and we'll go from there. Deborah has asked, as a science teacher working as a supply teacher, I'm a bit concerned about the question structure and sentence content in programs like Tessome and Educake, which are used massively in schools for revision. Do you see this as a replacement of BBC Bitesize, and what are your thoughts on this?
I think, so just, could you tell me the middle bit of the question again, which age group we're talking about here?
Let me just see, it's science teacher. It doesn't say an age group, but I get the impression it's Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4.
I thought so,
from a revision point of view.
Yeah, I think Key Stage 3 science is something that we're looking at. As I mentioned before when I was taking you through the PowerPoint, it's Key Stage 3 is a problematic area, and some of the content that we have in there doesn't really work, and the progression through it is poor. I'll hold my hands up there. So what we're doing is we're trying to address that with clearly everyone's got restricted resources these days, so we're having to do that in a kind of incremental way, which frankly means that there's still some stuff up there that we don't think is ideal, but we hope we're now aware of it thanks to people like you pointing it out. So we're working on improving not just the science content on Key Stage 3, but the content in general. And as I probably said far too many times over the last hour, we are using specialist teachers in each of those areas to make sure that we're getting it right as we do that. So I hope you think that things will improve over the next 6 to 8 months. We're certainly trying to do that.
Thank you, Andrew. Next question's from Joel. He's a PSHE lead, and he uses a lot of BBC video material in lessons. And he specifically references a relationship and sex education provision, which uses clips from Dear Nobody to tell a story about a teenage relationship which involves pregnancy. And he says, and he acknowledges that the students find it really engaging despite its age. Many want to watch the whole story rather than see it in short clips. As teaching through stories is coming back into fashions, it would be great if the whole drama was made available. And given that what Chloe said about being visual and relatable, any chance of getting someone in BBC Drama to upload the whole film, please?
I think the issue with that particular series is that, as he pointed out, is that it's quite old, and that there's usually a rights issue, or there used to be a rights issue around the longer form content. So on Teacher or Bitesize, we were only permitted to use certain clips because we didn't have rights to the entire program. That happens a lot less now, because we negotiate at the start to make sure that we can upload the whole program as well. So for example, there was a series called Is This Coercive Control that we made jointly with, which is a PSHE series as well, that we made jointly with BBC 3 and Current Affairs. And we do have the whole program up there, as well as clips from it and the studio discussion around the different sequences. So I'm afraid the answer is probably not with the series that he was talking about, but at least in future we will be able to do that, if that's any consolation.
Yeah, absolutely. Are BBC Teach Live lessons suitable for Key Stage 3 and 4, Rebecca's asking?
Can I jump in quickly and answer this?
Yeah, I was going to
use
hand
them
to you,
for
to be
Key
honest.
Stage 3. Yes, I use the live lessons for my Key Stage 3 pupils. I'd also say because they're saved once they've been aired, you can watch it yourself and make that judgment dependent on your cohort of children. They may not be suitable for all academic abilities, but for the lower age or the nurturing groups, they may be, yes.
I think there are some, I mean, one example springs to mind recently, which is the Safer Internet Day one, which is obviously about safety online. And I think, personally, I mean, I'm not a teacher, so forgive me if you disagree, but I think that does work for Key Stage 3 as well. Obviously the lower end of Key Stage 3, but it was designed as a primary live lesson. But like Chloe says, I think that would work for Key Stage 3. When we make live lessons, or when we have in the past made live lessons that we specifically build as secondary live lessons, the viewing figures were very low. And when we talk to I mean, it's a fairly obvious answer really, but when we talk to teachers about why, they said, well, you know, we can't really, you know, move the day around in the way that a primary school can. So, you know, even if that live lesson appeals to us, there isn't necessarily room, you know, in the timetable to do it. So we're a bit wary about, you know, because they cost a fair amount, to be honest, live lessons, particularly the genuinely live ones. We're a bit wary about, you know, the cost per head in making them, if I'm honest.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrew and Chloe, for that answer. John, who had asked the question about the Dear Nobody, did say that he does use the whole of the coercive education, and it's excellent.
Brilliant! Oh,
and
excellent!
He would like to pass on his thanks for those materials.
Great, good.
Got a couple of other questions now in the main chat, and I hope I get these. Another Rebecca has said, just an observation in terms of Raid and Trade, the interactive game. She said it looks great, but the speed of the narrator is rather fast for those with language disorders or dyslexia.
I have got the Children's and Education Game Steering Group tomorrow, so that's going straight back to them as a piece of feedback, and I'll see what we can do about that. But
that's great, Andrew. Thank you very much. Also, I've gone into the question and answers. Excuse me, I need to go into the chat. My apologies. We've got a colleague who uses BBC Bitesize French for Key Stage 3 quite a lot, but she doesn't find that she uses the resources anywhere near as much for primary French. She was hoping that you're going to give her some good news about some richer materials perhaps to be used for age appropriately with primary age children for French.
Well, actually, I am. so Nicola Anderson, who's our editor for primary, is about to start commissioning some modern foreign languages content for primary. So that'll take a while to come through. So it's not something that's going to be solved kind of tomorrow. But we know there's a gap there, and we know that the quality of the content there isn't fantastic. So we've just started to do something about that. So bear with us; it'll take a while, but it's a very good point.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Couple of more, and then I think we're approaching the end of the questions as they currently stand. We've got a colleague, Chris, who's asking, is there much relatable topic around PSHE and SMSC, as it's difficult in Key Stage 2 to cover subjects such as body odor? And I do know, as myself as a primary teacher, many of the materials that we have access to for PSHE and SMSC are really, really dated. We sometimes have to try and find the video cassette recorder to play the materials that are available. So that's a pretty important question for us in the primary sector.
Yeah, I mean, Chloe, is there anything you use in that space for
Yeah, again, I use Youngers. I love Youngers. Now, even if you're looking for something on body odor and there isn't a clip specifically on body odor, you can find something that relates to it. So, for example, in PSHE this week, for example, we've done stereotypes. Now, I couldn't find anything specifically on stereotypes on the BBC Teach website. What I did find was a video on a binge drinker who was a teenager, and we went through the stereotypes of what we think a typical alcoholic is, and then we watched the video of the binge drinker who was a young child, and we related it that way. So if you can't find something that's obvious about what you need, I know you said for SH, spiritual, moral, social and cultural development, you can find something that you can maybe link. And that's the way that I would go through. Always look and try and find that link.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good way of doing it. And to be honest, we had a series that actually addressed a lot of these issues and actually did it pretty well, but unfortunately had some stereotypes in there that you just, it had become dated. I mean, they probably should never have been there in the first place, frankly. But so we took that series down, but that had it's called Ask Lara. Yeah, so we did have it and we don't have it now, and it's an area we need to look at.
Thanks, Andrew, and Chloe, thanks so much for explaining how many of the resources can be used in a relatable way. That's a really good idea. I've got a colleague from Scotland who says that her P5 class really loves super movers and mascots for the Scottish Times tables. A request from her, is it possible to have the 8 times tables in the Scottish format, please?
Ooh, that is a specific request. I am writing it down now and I will find out. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the Super Movers content is 3 or 4 years old now, and I think we have to make a call about whether we remake some of it, because frankly those mascots are wearing football kits that are 4 years old, that sort of thing. But I know how popular Super Movers still is, so we're really keen that it remains that way. So we probably do need to refresh the content. So can I have a look at that one and get back to you, please?
Of course, and kind of on a related point, I think it's Dawn. Let me just go back to the chat. I'm sorry, I keep jumping in and out. Yeah, Dawn talks about, maths is often seen as dull and unexciting, and he thinks this is a really fantastic area for opportunity for BBC Bitesize to do something really exciting and invigorating in that space. So that's really I guess not a request, maybe an observation about an opportunity for BBC Bitesize to really make maths more invigorating and give it a bit more pizzazz, really.
Yeah, I mean, we're sort of conflicted about maths in the sense that our maths content. It's hard to say whether our maths content isn't that popular because it isn't that good, or it isn't that popular because people are using, the maths apps, and the maths apps are, so popular, aren't they? Mathletics and all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
And we're, it would take a heck of a lot of investment in maths content to get anywhere near the sort of quality and the sort of interactivity that those apps offer. Yeah. So we're trying to work out what we can, because our budgets are minuscule compared to some of these big corporate apps, and obviously Microsoft Teams and all of that sort of stuff, Google Classroom and all of that. So we have to sort of say, well, can we really compete in that space? With the resources that we got, and I have to go and have a good look at that. But yeah, I mean, and also it's really challenging, isn't it, to find a way to do maths in that way that really invigorates. We just need to make sure that we take the right advice and use the right teachers to do that.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I think, I just want to check with my colleagues here on the call from NASUWT, Darren and Sonia. I think that does conclude all the questions we've had in the questions of in the questions and answers section, and also the chat. Could I ask Darren or Sonia just to confirm that I haven't missed any?
No, I think you've got them all, Damien, I think.
Thank you very much.
I think Don's nailed it though when he says, you know, it is a chicken and egg situation, you know,
Yeah.
and we need to kind of decide where we go with maths. You know, we can't just stay on the fence like we are at the moment.
Well, and Andrew and Chloe, I'd like to thank you both on behalf of all of those that have been able to attend for NASUWT, and for those colleagues who will be watching this recording at a later date in the coming days, weeks and months, for taking us through the new BBC Education offer as a package, and the wonderful resources that are currently there, and for those that are being developed in the future. So thank you on behalf of everyone on the call, and you can see other colleagues putting their thanks into the chat as well.
Well, listen, it's our pleasure, and you know, it's an honour to be here, and thanks for asking us, and I'm sure Chloe would agree with me on that point. It's been great.
Yeah, it has been. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, we will end the recording and close the call.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.